Sometimes, when you're going through hell, you just gotta keep going.
Hello, my pack, my tribe. Welcome to Howling After Dark. Slight change of plans. The show I was going to do tonight about ghost towns has been postponed till next week because a discussion in my speaker chat last night, and I've been thinking about it all day, about crossing over. And what it actually means. See, I can only tell you my theories on these things. What other people believe or don't believe is their business. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I can only tell you my side. It's up to my listeners to make up their own minds. I'm not going to hold your hand and do it for you. But I'm not going to hold your hand. But if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer as best as I know how to. Meaning that I will give you my ideas, my theories, my opinions on things. And if you get help from that, then great. If you disregard that and have opinions or ideas or theories of your own, that's great too. Just don't, come running to me if I say something you don't agree with and whine about it. Not saying that my listeners would do that. I'm just putting it out there. Anyways, so I want to kind of clarify something about what it means to see spirits. First of all, especially when they cross over. Now, other people that have the gift of I guess, clairvoyancy, if you will, the ability to see spirits, I don't know what it's like for them. I don't imagine that there's anybody quite like me, because as far as I can tell, I see everything. Not just ghosts, but everything. And I sometimes do see spirits that are just crossing over. They haven't quite crossed over yet. But here's my theory on crossing over and spirits in general. I think crossing over isn't exactly the right term. Because crossing over kind of gives you the visual that it's some long, far distance away from the rest of us. And I don't believe that to be true, personally. I think that it's like stepping through a curtain. You're still in the same room, you're just separated by a curtain. And my sight works like that sometimes. It's kind of like being on one side of a waterfall, looking through it and seeing these figures on the other side. And at times, the water is kind of rough and kind of churned up, and you can't see things that clearly. And at times it falls very still, and it's like glass, and you can see it very clearly. That's kind of what it's like for me. But one thing I am personally dead certain of is the fact that they can cross over and back at will. Um, and the reason I am personally certain of it is very simple, and I actually have a story about it for you. Um, this was years before I formed the team Ghost Wolf Paranormal. It was even years before I was with my former team before that. Um, it was actually during an investigation in San Diego. We were actually at Mission San Diego, which is an old Spanish mission. It's actually one of the original old Spanish missions that were built there in like the late 1500s, early 1600s. Before California was a part of the United States, it was a colony of Spain. And before that, just like the rest of the United States, it was native land. But I digress. So, we were doing an investigation there, and there was a native spirit, one of the Mission Band Indians. Mission Band means that they were one of the California bands that were converted by the church, pretty much by force, if you will. So we were talking to what apparently was this one Mission Band Indian from way back in the day that died at some point in like during like this battle that took place between the Spanish soldiers stationed at the Presidio at the mission, which is like a fort, and the local Indians because they were attempting to resist conversion. And this one native was completely distraught and didn't really understand how to cross over. I mean, they knew they were dead. They just didn't know how to do it. And so we kind of, through our investigation, helped them out. Well, they crossed over. We know that they crossed over. We know we could sense it. So I ended up just a few months later leaving California. That actually moved out of state and then came back after about 2 years. So 2 years had gone by. I had actually left the state and then came back. I went to the exact same spot. Used the exact same kind of equipment, which was a mini cassette recorder, by the way, because it was before digital recorders. Or I think digital recorders were actually just coming out. But anyways, so I'm there using the exact same kind of equipment, and I started investigating. I started doing basically an EP session, and lo and behold, the same spirit came across. Only this time it wasn't distraught. It was just talking. And so I had asked, didn't you cross over? It said, yeah. Well, that told me right there that they can come and go as they please. So I know in a personal way that is true, that they can cross and come back as often as they want. Because they still have free will. I know that. Nobody's ever going to convince me otherwise. But same can also be said that I can't convince anyone either. Because whatever you're going to believe is whatever you're going to believe. There's nothing I can do about it. So, that's what I believe. Now, others believe that, and I actually kind of pity people that actually believe this with crossing over. They believe that if you're a ghost and you're quote-unquote haunting, then you're trapped. And therefore, anything in the paranormal is seen through negative light. I actually went to an event not that long ago, probably like 2015, called the Ohio Paranormal Gathering. It was the second annual one. And there was a gentleman there whose name I don't recall, and even if I did, I wouldn't say on the air just because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but he did this whole spiel about how everything is negative to him because spirits are trapped. That's the only way he can see it, is that spirits are trapped. And that, therefore they need help crossing over and yada, yada, yada. But, and, fault for his belief, really, because the media, particularly paranormal TV shows, have kind of fostered that belief. I just know that in a personal way, and when I say in a personal way, that means that I personally believe this 110%, that he was wrong. That in fact, they can come back and forth as much as they want to because they have free will. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I cannot convince anyone else of it. That is their business. So, like I said at the beginning, all I'm telling you is my opinions, my theories, etc. Now, having said that, that does not mean that there is not such a thing as trapped spirits. Of course there is. But trapped spirits, in general, are spirits that are trapped, that are being kept from moving on, crossing over, whatever you want to call it, by either spirits that are much darker and much more powerful than they are, or downright negative entities that are much more powerful than they are. Which is why when I encounter that thing, I take care of said negative entity, what have you, deliver them a spiritual boot right in the ass, and send them packing. And therefore, nothing is preventing them from crossing over. And every time I've done that, they've crossed over, and then they came back. Because here's the truth, how I see it. Okay, and like I said, you can disagree with me if you choose. But the way I see it is, they choose to be here. Everything they have ever known is here. Even with spirits that have been around forever, that is still true. Because even though the world has changed and evolved and adapted over eons, even since the time of said spirit, a lot of the time, a lot has remained the same. There's still enough that they would find familiar in the world. And there would be enough different in the world that they would be fascinated by it. So why wouldn't they stick around? Why wouldn't they want to communicate with the living? Because honestly, I think it is as much a rush for them as it is for us. And who's to say they don't investigate us also? We don't know. But wouldn't it make sense? And I have all sorts of theories about paranormal stuff, UFOs. I can explain why UFOs do indeed exist with one argument. With one argument, and I can prove it to even the most close-minded skeptic. They'll sit there and deny everything to my face, but they'll start to doubt themselves, and you can see it in their eyes. They are starting to doubt themselves when I say this. Here's why I can prove beyond the shadow of a doubt in my own mind that UFOs and aliens exist. The universe is so vast that it consists of millions of galaxies. Now you're going to tell me that in all those millions of galaxies that there is no way any one of those planets can sustain intelligent life. That, my friends, to me, is the height of human arrogance. Saying that ghosts don't exist or that they're all trapped when you don't in fact know that, to me, is the height of human arrogance. Because it is mathematically impossible for that to be true. I'm not even talking about spiritual beliefs. I'm talking it is a mathematical impossibility for a universe so vast to exist and only one source of intelligent life in the whole universe. That's like saying that there's only one fish in the entire ocean. And it's already been generally disproven that we are alone in the universe. Proven. You understand? And it's very simple. and it was something that was incredibly, like, just glossed over with the media. They actually found microorganisms, not extinct, not fossilized, but alive on Mars. Now, here's the thing. Wherever microorganisms exist, so do other forms of life, because they need something to feed on. That means if life can technically exist on a planet in our own solar system, then that must be true of others too. It has to. Mathematically, the skeptics don't make sense. It's the same thing with spirits, with ghosts. Closed-minded skeptics say that there's no way that ghosts exist. But how do they know? How do they know? Mathematically, they have to be incorrect, because how many times have closed-minded people been shown evidence and denied it, regardless of its validity? They'll find a way to pick it apart because they're so convinced, so righteously convinced of their own rightness, that they don't have room for anything else. These are the same kind of people that said that the world was flat. Wow, they were proven wrong. These are the same kinds of people that said it was impossible to go to the moon. They were proven wrong. These are the same people that said it was impossible to launch a probe out of our solar system. And guess what? They were proven wrong. Every time a closed-minded person kind of governs the opinion of people, they are proven wrong. And do you know what they call that? You know what the term for that is in quantum physics? Synchronicity. It means that the same events keep replaying themselves throughout time because people don't fucking change. There's always going to be believers. There's always going to be closed-minded. That is just how it is. And every time closed-minded people are proven wrong, they find something else to be closed-minded about. And this is no different. Because what a lot of this crossing over topic deals with is kind of a closed-mindedness in the ranks of the otherwise open-minded. Because they're in the paranormal field. But there are those in the paranormal field that are absolutely close-minded about certain things. And I really kind of blame paranormal TV for a lot of it, to be honest with you, because people see it on TV and they automatically think, oh, well, that must be the truth. You might recall a while back on Ghost Adventures that Zach and the boys are theorizing that child spirits must be negative or demonic entities trying to mimic children so that you get closer to them. Okay, yeah, they're partially right. I have actually seen that. I have seen negative entities actually mimic children and other things in order for us to get closer. I have actually seen that. That doesn't mean that that's the case every time. In fact, in 27 years, I've only seen it once. One time. On one investigation. And any spirit can do that, by the way, good or evil. Doesn't matter. I've actually seen a spirit of an 8-year-old boy who was frightened that actually presented himself as kind of like a Grim Reaper looking thing so that he wouldn't be messed with. I've actually seen that happen. So the whole idea that spirits that exist on our plane that are actually haunting are trapped is asinine bullshit. To be honest with you, that's how I feel about it anyways. I feel as if that is ludicrous. I feel as if that is so arrogant. And let's be honest about it. The majority of the people that think that lean more towards like Christian demonology than they do actual paranormal investigating. And I'm not even trying to rip on Christians, mind you. But I do have a big problem with a lot of Christian demonologists because they think every spirit is a demon that is just simply trying to trick you, and I find that to be absolute ludicrous bullshit, even going by their own book. It talks about spirits in Egypt. It talks about spirits multiple times throughout the New Testament. And these are the same people saying that every spirit is a demon trying to trick you. Right. I think you need to read that book a little more closely. And understand, I'm not talking about all Christians. I'm not going to bash on anybody for whatever they believe. If you believe in the Church of Jim Carrey, holy moly, or you believe in the worship the god of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or whatever, it doesn't matter what you believe. I don't have a problem what anybody believes in, as long as they aren't hurting anybody else or otherwise doing something to negatively impact the world. I don't care what they believe. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. It absolutely does not matter. But when your beliefs start to get in my way, get in the way of others that believe differently, that's when I have a problem. And to put it pretty bluntly here, to those closed-minded Christian types, I would say this, and you should know that this is true. If you believe in Jesus, which I don't have a problem with that at all, but if you believe in Jesus and you're closed-minded about everything, A, you're a hypocrite, and B, he would be ashamed of you. Because according to that book, and according to other histories concerning his life, he was one of the most laid-back, open-minded people ever. Think about it. But tonight isn't about religion. It's not about belief systems. It's about crossing over. And yeah, there are spirits who are trapped. I'm not trying to say that there aren't, but that's actually a rare thing. It is incredibly rare. I can name a handful of times in my 27-year career that I've even heard about it. And I can only name one time that I've actually seen it. Now, that's not to say that there aren't spirits that are that aren't trapped but do need help crossing over. That happens too. And yet again, that's also kind of rare. Because from what I've gathered, it couldn't be more obvious, unless they threw up some neon signs pointing the way, ridiculously obvious. Meaning that usually the ones that actually need help crossing over are fully capable of crossing over. They know how to do it. It's just that they're afraid. For whatever reason. Usually because they think they're going to go to hell. So, but these are my thoughts, my beliefs. And once again, for the record, I can't convince anybody. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just a radio show host that happens to talk about the paranormal and is very opinionated and shares his opinions and doesn't really give a shit who likes it or not. And who isn't afraid to call people out when they're working in my beloved paranormal field and they do things to disgrace it. That's really all I am. You know, and I have some experience under my belt, and I share what I've experienced and what my experiences are. You know, but I'm not asking anybody to like it. You know, if you don't like what I say, don't listen to my show. It's that simple. Alright, I've got about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and stop session 1 now. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with session 2 of tonight's show. Howling After Dark, Crossing Over, Part 2 coming up.